Hi, welcome to Coffee and Comics. And tonight I have a guest. This is Josel, and he is the author, and you're also the artist, no? For this,
Yes.
of Bearings. This is a very interesting book. I haven't read it. I browsed through it a while ago, and I'm so excited to devour this thing in one go. Kasi mukha naman siyang fast read, no? So can you tell us, Josel, about Bearings? What is this all about?
Bearings is a collection of mga 5 issues of yung autobiographical comic called Windmills. I started doing it, I think mga 2009.
Right.
Tapos it went into, like yung first printing niya was 2012 as a book. Ganon. It's 250 pages long. It's starts off as a very heavy read kasi it's all about death and
Right.
like it's all of yung
About
youthful
death, no?
angst. Yeah, may ganon mga about wakes and mga ganon, and then just parang
How young people cope with loss and death.
well, yeah, parang it's a lot of resonances and like thinking about like may mga several intros din pero it's a lot of making mountains out of molehills type of writing ganon, like
Okay.
it was an effort for me to make like a comic na I think 30 pages long, several stories in it na very dense na medyo walls of text din kasi burgeoning young
Right,
writer ganon, and I said na parang I don't have enough pages to tell a story. I'll tell like a lot of stories in like one thing ganon. Tapos
FYI guys, Josel is you're a storyboard artist also for film. You've
Yes.
worked with Direk Eric Mati for By Bus. That's a very famous movie. And what
I
else?
did yung Darna storyboards.
Darna storyboards also.
Uh,
And now you have your own IP. This is original IP mo. And how old are you now? Sorry.
I'm
You're-
36. So
That's still pretty young, guys, and I'm happy to see that from a film aspect, and now you're moving into print. Was this a long-term dream of yours to become an author?
Well, the story then with it is I think in first published work ko, they published this in Abangan. It was an antho around 2010, 2015. I don't remember. Pero I was always a self-publisher. I was self-publishing comics ko.
Right.
Selling it at Sputnik, Uno Maroto,
Right.
Comics, Comic-Con,
Right.
Comic-Con, right? I never thought I'd be published. Like, because this was already, what do you call this? It was already solicited to like all of the publishers. And no one really believed in it.
Oh, sorry, who published this?
UST Press. It's the first graphic novel published by Academic Press.
Can you believe that? And you're an alumni, di ba?
Yes.
Galing, I mean.
So they took a chance on it, but it was rejected a couple of times na before in other
so
presses.
nangulit ka lang.
I owe a lot to Ma'am Nerissa Guevara, like my old professor, for believing in me and like soliciting again, ganon. There's a lot of fan art from other people because I've been doing comics for 17 years now, and Windmills has been running around 15 years. It's the 15th anniversary this year. Yeah, so there's a lot more that I've done. This is just the first 5 issues. I think I'm up at the
So volume 1 to.
It's volume 1. There's volume 2 that I was doing in the pandemic, and it was all about caregiving and then work stuff, This one is a lot. It's a lot about yung college. It ends with a breakup. It starts in the middle. I get a job.
Right.
It's a lot of manic phases.
Right.
When I'm like, when it comes upon me to like, I have to talk about this one thing na
Right.
it's been on my mind, and that's
Parang
something that
catharsis sa'yo yan.
It's a lot of catharsis.
To take it out on paper, no?
yeah, and like just put it on paper. The initial impetus to make it was I used to make a lot of drug psychedelia comics, and I never knew
He
how
wrote
to.
about drugs, okay, guys? He didn't make drugs.
I didn't make drugs.
Just to get things straight.
More consumer pa nga pero but
Of legal drugs.
sure. Yeah, there's a lot of drug taking than
Okay,
there, but
okay.
it's fine, you know.
As do kids are,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
how it is.
I'm actually sober. Like I'm 5 years sober now, so like
Okay, that's
yeah.
good to know.
So the do drugs, but like the only thing that I learned sa drugs, like sa mushroom trip, was I have to get clean. Yun yung aking takeaway from drugs, you know.
Okay, what inspired you to do bearings? Kanina nag-usap ka pa kami. We've been talking for a while dito. Guys, this is Coffee and Comics. This is a comic book shop and a cafe. Come by. I think I have a graphic here to show you where to go. It's very wasteable, and you can order some of a really good, some best your favorite cup of coffee. If not, we have a bar that you can order your favorite alcoholic beverage while reading a book. And kanina pa kami nag-usap, and you are very knowledgeable of especially old comics. You're a big fan of who isn't a fan of Alan Moore and all those guys, and I've learned so much talking about you're giving me a lot of info about the olden days of comics, and I'm very interested with that. Was that a big part of your influence to get into writing bearings?
A big part of it was when my sister was dating yung husband niya right now.
Okay.
He gave me a copy of Killing Joke.
Oh,
by
okay.
Alan Moore.
There you go.
And
how old were you then? When that come? Alan.
I was high school. I was high school around
Okay.
14,
Okay.
15. It was very influential on me. I forgot yung
So
artist.
what's your take on the ending of Killing Joke?
I always thought he died. I always thought he died. It's like, oh, like
Sorry.
that's why they're like the water.
Spoilers.
I thought-
Spoilers.
I didn't know that the idea was, oh, it's a pun on killing on stage. Because
Alright,
Batman got choked on. But I thought he killed the Joker. That's what I thought.
I think everybody thinks that. I think that also, but it's kind of mababaw that he killed the Joker. Parang natawa ka na eh. Dapat friends na kayo.
I guess, yeah.
Diba? Pero I mean, it's still a great book. Was that your gateway drug into comics?
My gateway drug into reading comics was Watchmen and Dark Knight. Like my brother-in-law gave me really
Watchmen,
good books.
what's that?
And then I wanted to give my brother-in-law like a comic,
Right.
on his graduation.
Right.
I bought him Wasted by Jerry Allen Gillan.
Yeah.
And then I read it, and then it was amazing because I was a child. And
It's
then
still amazing now if you read it now. I mean, it's still amazing.
Yeah, it's-
Wasted is still, I think, it's an awesome title.
it's hard to recommend right now because it has some it's very triggering, you know. I understand that, but I love it because it inspired me and it's a very raw work. But it was the important part for me, or like the part that inspired me, was the interview at the end,
Right.
where he was talking about, I didn't know I could make comics until I found out that Will Spartacio was Filipino. And then
Yeah.
I thought, oh, Sir Jerry is Filipino. I'm
Right.
Filipino. I didn't know that he was Filipino. I was like, oh, I could make this. And I saw how he drew. It's like, I can draw like that.
Dun siya nag-start.
Yeah, it was like, oh,
naisip
it was easy to make comics.
Actually, it's very inspiring when you go into the history of comics. To some people who don't know, there was a Filipino invasion of comic book artists in the 70s in Marvel and DC, and some of the biggest titles that we know of are drawn art by Filipinos.
It's actually really fucked up. Then there's like this story about Alan Moore. He's talking about, I think he was talking to an editor, and the editor said like,
In Vertigo to.
no, it was DC pa. There was no
Okay.
Vertigo back
Okay,
then
okay.
pa. He used the term Filipino rate, which is a rate na, oh, you could get good work
Cheap.
for cheap.
For cheap.
Because
Oh my
Filipinos
God.
were cheap labor.
And fast, and very fast.
And I talked to Rico Rival. He drew some Man Things pa.
Right.
They worked in the
Man
States
Thing,
together. They were just holed up in one place. Because OFW sila,
Oh,
basically. And then they would send money back home because
Right,
the
right.
rates were... They were cheap for the Americans to
But-
pay them, but it was big money.
Ample amount
Yeah.
in our country. It's it's really, I mean, it's sad to think that it seems like a win for us. For me, it feels like,
Ye-
oh,
but it
man,
was like
when
it's-
are we gonna be? When are we gonna be like, oh, Filipinos? Oh, that's prime work.
Yeah.
I think that's before I die. I want to see that. I want to see that in any industry. When you say, oh, Filipino work, oh, that's prime work. Oh, you have, it's worth it. You pay for that premium.
I think the Spaniards ironically have that. No, seriously, like the
Yeah,
Europeans and Spaniards,
I
it's
know.
like, oh,
I know.
get ano.
Guys, this is one of the advocacies here in Coffee and Comics is to promote local and to ibinibida namin to. We're really pushing this the local creators to be the prime books here in Coffee and Comics. So please, guys, support local artists, support local creators. Come by here. You can pick up a copy of Bearings, and you have more titles pa, diba?
Yeah.
So we're gonna be talking about that also next week when Josel comes back. But now this is all about Bearings. Okay, can you give us a fast summary of what Bearings is all about? Not you. Bahala ka na if you want to spoil it. Who's the protagonist? And
I draw
where do we
myself
go?
as a bear, and I thought na it's in the book. The making of the book is in the book because it eats its own ass.
Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, kanina.
It's just I wanted to make something that was accessible because I had been making psychedelic drug comics before that I didn't know how to end. I was trying to be Grant Morrison, you know.
Everyone was trying to be Grant Morrison when we were younger.
Oh, meta, right? It was like ano.
Remember that Animal Man? Ano niya, run
Yeah,
niya, that was
exactly.
like-
It was exactly that. Yung the Gospel of the Coyote. I love that. But then I said to my girlfriend at the time, "Oh, I want to make something that's cute and accessible and people will read." And then I made the first. Someone commissioned me, Adam David. He commissioned me to like, hey, I might be making like He's a longtime collaborator. I might be making a humor magazine. Do you want to send like an 8-page thing?
Right.
And I made the 8-page thing. The first story is very triggering. In Invisible Ovens, it talks. There's like sexual stuff there. That's
Sexual innuendos or blatantly sex?
no, it's a coded story. Then
Okay.
it's discussing something really personal that fucked up happened to me.
Right.
Ganun. But like I think I tapped into something there because it felt there was a catharsis and I was happy with how dense it was and
Right.
how I wanted to play with like some formal experimentation that the idea was the image wasn't in the drawings, the image was in the text.
Right.
And the drawings were interchangeable in a way.
Right. What do you mean
that's-
interchangeable? You can place a story
They're both text on
forefront
text.
behind. Oh, okay.
It's just I feel like, and it's in the intro. I do say to people, it's very hard to read the first couple of issues because you have to remember it's a 19-year-old college kid, very pretentious, very hipster, trying very hard to be adult, and somehow, I hope not pulling it off, but you can skip to issue 3 or issue 4. Honestly, I think that's my best paced work. But I am very happy about the work in the sense that it's a young me. I'm 36 now. I made it when I was 19, 18,
I love the fact that you have letters. You have an introduction here, and I like that.
It's a very insecure book. There are way too many blurbs on it. Just saying, just para, may blurb si Manix. Trust him. There's something,
Ang ganda. And I love the art. You have a quirky style of art here, no? Was this always your style, or did you develop this just for this book?
It's me. At first, it was very abstract in the beginning, and then very raw. I would draw traditionally on pen and paper. By issue 3, that was the last issue that I drew pen and paper. The issue 4, I drew with like a pen tab na, and went full digital ever since, and just haven't looked back. Then.
Right.
There's always like I could see a thorough line of what I was reading per issue.
Right.
I think the first issue was I was reading Alec by Eddie Campbell, King Canute Crowd. I loved how he was able to write and just draw like his personal stories.
Right.
Second issue had, well, I think by the third issue I was reading David Foster Wallace and trying to make it to the comic. So that's the level of freshman writing that you will be reading in the. But trust me, it really gets good.
I believe you. And guys, if you're into coming of age, this is technically a coming of age.
Sure.
So let's put, leave it at that. So if you like coming of age stories that has a lot of sexual innuendos and drugs, check this out. Bearings. This is available here in Coffee and Comics. And when we come back next week, you're going to be talking about your other titles.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Josel, again for coming over. I hope you come back next week and we'll delve into your other titles. Bye, everybody.